Alright everybody, it's time for the Decals, and this is just going to be a quick little test here to see how they react. They're cartograph decals, so I'm excited. Why? Some of you asked me that. Well, because cartograph seem to make very nice decals. They seem to specialize only in making decals. Sorry for those two, decals. And yeah, I love them because they like to conform. They apply well to gloss surfaces, and I'm ready to go. This one has quite a few little stencils, which I quite like. Normally, I'm not a big fan of stencils on 70-second scale models because they're kind of harder to see, but I think they're going to be very nice. There's some here on the tail. You can see there's a couple on there. And for right now, I'm going to use one of these little rondelles with the stars on there. Just something big enough for you to see. I'm going to use Tamiya Mark Fit Strong. I like using this stuff. I actually like it more than Microset and Microsol. Just personal preference. I don't think they're quite that kind of better than the other, but again, that's just personal preference. Went to town today, and look at what I did to my hand. All smudged up with black oil paint because I'm multitasking. And yeah, some of you may have shock and awe because a lot of you guys know I'm not good at multitasking, so I try not to do it. I picked this up today when I was in town. Gorilla Glue. And this is super glue. It's supposed to be incredibly strong, and I have a friend who basically he swears by this stuff. This is for the TIE Fighter. When I get to it, or sorry, TIE Advance. When I get to gluing the wings on, which is something I'm going to do. By the way, Happy New Year's, everyone. It is, in fact, New Year's. There we go. Perfect. What are you doing on your New Year's? Well, I'm going to go upload the New Year's episode in a little while. No, you have to stay out. Stay out of the room. And after that, after I get that done, I'm going to come back and work on something. I'll figure it out. I've got more than enough projects to keep me busy. And yes, some of you may be asking, Rose of Cloud9, you loser, you're not doing anything on New Year's? Of course I am. I'm doing something really awesome on New Year's. I'm decaling a Wildcat, building a TIE Fighter. That's what I like to do. Wow. Okay, so I put it down, and basically it's stuck. It's not straight. That's my problem, though. It is really sucked down to the model. Oh, let's see if I can grab that. That way I can turn it a little. Uh-oh. I just broke it. Oh, well, that's a decal film. Fantastic. That is fantastic. Okay. These decals are excellent. So a little bit of good decal solvent, and I honestly... Oh, and a good gloss surface. I don't think anyone is going to have problems with this stuff. Wow. I'm very, very happy with that. Okay, I'm not going to apply any solvent down beforehand. I'm only going to do that after, like what we've just done right here. That is fantastic. Look at that. Oh, I can't wait to see this thing all done up. Good decals cartograph as usual, but a gloss surface goes a long way, guys. Really, really does. Especially, you know, you can just apply one layer of future onto something like this. Do 2 or 3, at least 2. I did 2 on here. Much, much better. You get that thicker coat, and they just stick there much better. Okay, so I'm gonna go and do the rest of this now, and I'll be back with something later. So anyways, because every batch of decals are not the same, even when they're made by the same company, sometimes you need to take extra measures in preparing them. And that is the case with these Cartograph decals here. So what I've done is I've gloss coated them last night, and they are not properly covered. And so what I can do, simply enough, is just add a few more layers of Future, and hopefully that'll get rid of any not quite silvering, but again they just didn't conform as well as I was expecting them to. So we're just gonna, you know, quickly take care of that. So I like to add a little bit more on here and here. This way I can keep other areas free, because the model has been gloss coated twice, and again now I have mobility to pick it up and move it around. I'm not going to grab the fuselage. So what I'll do now is leave this alone for a while, probably a good few hours, probably even leave it till tomorrow. And this is early in the morning, so it'll take me a while. And you can see they're added on the landing gear and the gear covers. Also added on the arrestor hook on the end there. And the one that I quite like the most, oh, well, and I added on the engine. Forgot about that. The one that I'm quite happy with, it is a bit of a pain, but they look fantastic when you get them on there. All the little stencils on the propeller. So now I need to paint the tips yellow, and for that I'm going to use, when I get to it in a little bit here, oh, here it is, P3 yellow. I really like these paints. Very, very, very nice colors, and this is nice yellow to hand brush. Tamiya yellow, not so much. So yeah, keeping a good gloss coat takes a while. Might have, like I said, I might have to do another layer of it just to really get it thick on there, so that you can't see the, I don't want to see the frame, you know, of the decal. I want to have it just flat. And that might take a little bit. I might not be able to do it, unfortunately, but we will wait and see. But coming up after that is a panel line, so I'll show you guys what that's all about in a moment. Alright everybody, it's time for the panel line wash. I'm using Tamiya panel line accent color, and I'm going to be answering quite a few questions on this one. Now what's really nice about these new tooled Airfix kits is they have recessed panel lines, which means they've got these grooves in them, which is what you need for our panel line accent to, or sorry, a pin wash to work. Or in this case, I guess it was a little correct, panel line accent to work. A pin wash is essentially thinned down oil paints, enamel paints. You thin it down with enamel thinner, mineral spirits, what have you. What's really nice about these Tamiya ones is they come pre-mixed in the bottle, and they have a little brush on the end. I also have a brown, and I'm going to buy all the other colors. There's a dark brown, there's a gray, and I think they just released a dark gray. So you can also make these on your own if you have some enamel thinner. Now they only work on acrylics, which is really nice when you have gloss coat of Future or Tamiya clear. And basically what you're supposed to do is you're just supposed to kind of make a dot, and they would run down into the grooves. Doesn't always happen. Sometimes you need to help it along a little bit, which is what I'm doing here, and this works just as well. But I'm going to answer a couple questions, because usually when I do this, people ask me stuff. We cannot buy this in North America until just recently. It is finally available. When I bought this, it was technically illegal still, but for some reason, I don't know what happened. I'm very excited. It is now legal, so I'm hoping one day, and hoping very soon, that Tamiya enamel paints will be legal here as well, because I'd really love to have the full Tamiya color range in both acrylic and enamel. It would make my life a lot easier. I'm sure a lot of other modelers as well. I've heard several reasons why. I've heard there's a chemical in the enamel paints that the governments don't like. But the one that I've heard, actually, and this came out of my hobby store, and he actually knows quite a bit of what he's talking about. He said basically they just don't want to compete with each other. Tamiya doesn't want to compete with Model Master and Humbrol here, which does make sense. They have a good market on the lacquer and acrylic paints, so why kind of step up and, third market that might not work? So how does this stuff work? Well, you thin it down. Consistency, that's totally up to you. You can have it quite thick, you can have it a little bit too thin. You got to play with that on your own. How long do you leave this stuff to dry? I can leave it for about an hour. But the longest I've ever left this stuff was several months, and it still came off. It took a little bit of extra scrubbing, but it did eventually come off. What do you use to clean it up? I use mineral spirits personally. I like it because it's not sticky and it dries very, very quick. But it is a bit strong, which is a bit of its downside. You can also buy enamel thinner, but you're going to have to go online for something like that. Unless you're in the UK, I think you can get it in store there. I've never been to the UK, so I can't speak for certain. But yeah, you can use mineral spirits, or again, go online, you can get it. You can get some Tamiya enamel thinner there. So I'm almost done here. So again, yeah, it's supposed to run into the panel lines, but obviously that's not going to happen with this. It's just not quite working. So yeah, you just leave it there. All I do is I have a Q-tip like this, dab it in the mineral spirits. I'll run most of it off. You don't need to have it like drenched in mineral spirits at all. It's very, very, you need very, very little on this. And then I'll just go in the direction of the panel line there and carefully scrub it off. And that'll take me a little while to do, but it looks quite nice when it's done. Oops, I see a line that I forgot there, which is usually what happens. That's why I'll take a good look over the kit here. So you can leave this for a day, you can leave it for 2 days if you like. It depends on you, it depends on the gloss coat. Again, two layers of Future is really, really good on this, and then after I'm done I'll probably just give it a quick flat coat. But it's very, very simple stuff to do. Some people complain it's not accurate, that you couldn't see all the panel lines, but well, frankly, I don't care, because I think it looks great. So that's about it. And I'm going to go let this stuff dry and clean it up, and we're almost done. Very, very exciting. Alright, next step here is to add a coat of flat clear XF86. I really like this stuff. The only problem with it is you have to airbrush it on a model. If you do it with a paintbrush, it'll actually smear the paint. It'll basically rip it right off. Even with a coat of Future, it'll go right through. So it does like to be, it's a very strong paint. Don't use a paintbrush. Use an airbrush and lightly layer it on. It doesn't take a lot, actually. Very, very light layer of that and you're good to go. So I've cleaned up the panel lines. You can see them there. They look quite nice. Some of them more dominant than others. It's always harder to get these panel lines on curves. Basically because of how they mold them and then the angle. But looks quite nice. And the other thing I did here, I have to paint the wing lights in a little bit. I'm going to leave that for last because I actually want to keep those shiny. Here I painted up the propeller. So look at that. It's going to look very nice, so I have to flat coat that as well. Do a couple little touch-ups and remove the masking, which I'm very looking forward to. Can't wait to see that. Hopefully nothing got underneath it. Sometimes that happens. What I do is I clean the inside. I don't worry about the exterior because you're gonna clean that last. So I only worry about the interior of the clear part. Clean that off, polish it with some Novus #1, brilliantly shiny and everything like that. And I be as careful as I can when I'm gluing it, not to get anything on the inside there. Put the window down, press it firmly there. It has a nice area. But sometimes when you're sanding and handling a model, particles get kicked up and they stick on there because there's a bit of static on those clear pieces. So hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers that none of that will actually happen with this one, because I'm very happy with this, and I don't want to cut out and remove the canopy on that one. So I'm quite happy with this, and now I'm going to go, like I said, and do the flat coat and yeah, a couple little touch-ups, and basically we're done. I'm very excited. I'm done. I haven't actually completed a model in what feels like a very, very long time, and I'm almost done. Alright, you guys, I flat coated the whole thing and the propeller, but I'm going to leave that till very last. I'm going to do something really fun. It's one of my favorite parts of finishing a model, removing the masks. Actually, I shouldn't say it's my favorite. Hopefully it'll be my favorite. Hopefully some things wouldn't have bled through and then I won't be able to see them. So what I'm doing right now, I'm using my sharp hobby knife, but I am very carefully just trying to lift up the edge. Just a little bit like that. So I can pull it out, the rest of it with the tweezers. And you want to be as careful with this as you can, that you don't scratch anything, because then you have to go back and do more work and touch-ups, and that always sucks. But again, it is part of the game. Okay, last one. Alright, here we go. Dun 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 dun. Looking good so far. And I believe I mentioned that the window frames, they're quite nice, but they're not as dominant as I would like. But they are visible. What would make them actually better, and I only ever really see a few companies doing this, is they actually fog up the frame line, so they help paint, that it'll adhere to that a little bit better. Some of the trumpeter kits do this, so it'd be nicer if other companies would kind of catch on to this. Again, it's not necessary or anything like that, but it is a little nice. But I'd rather have more dominant paint lines than, or frame lines rather than foggy ones. Look at that. So there's a bit of a lip on it, so you just kind of rub it off with your finger there. Nice and clean. Oh my goodness, I can look inside of that cockpit. Oh wow. Nice, clear. I love it. That is great. That is just great. So, I'm going to go paint the wingtip lights here. I'm going to attach the propeller. I'm going to take some pictures of it, because then it'll be done. And then I'll be back with the final reveal of the completed Wildcat. Alright everybody, the new tooled Airfix Grumman F4F-4 Wildcat is complete. And I was expecting, when I started out this model, I was expecting a great kit. I was not expecting, to be honest, an excellent kit. I should have been, but it was a much more pleasant surprise to finally finish this kit and think, man, this was just fun. I had so much fun doing this kit. It is a very, very well engineered model. I think the only fault that I have with it is the fact that the tooling maybe isn't as proper and flush on the undercarriage. You guys probably were going to guess that. It is doable. I wish it was a little bit simpler with the more precise engineering that you'd find like on a Tamiya kit. But, again, that being said, that's the only fault with that, and I managed to overcome it quite easily. It wasn't a big deal hurdle kind of problem. It was very simple, a couple trims and a bit of a slight fit, some sanding, and it was done. It was very, very simple. It's a great kit. Again, I can't express that enough. It's a wonderful kit. Putting it together, the engineering is amazing. It's really stellar how they've come up with this kit. I think my favorite part has to be, even though I didn't build it, I'm going to just show you guys here, is this section here of the wings. You can build the collapsed wings, and it's not just one of these things where you have to cut along the line here and cut along the bottom line there, and then you try and get them to fit. They give you them right here. It's both options. You can build this one, you don't have to build this one. They're there whether or not you want them, and I love that option because it makes it more simple for the modeler who wants to do that. And it's also a nice option to just have that in general. The instructions are incredibly easy to read. There's nothing wrong with the instructions. They're all there, they're precise. I think the only thing I did not like that was a bit of a hindrance was the fact that the instructions have the paint numbers, but I mentioned this earlier, it's not listed anywhere on the actual instructions, so you do have to have a reference material for what the colors are. And doing that, hopping back and forth, it's a bit tedious, but very, very minor from what are excellent instructions. The decals themselves are very nice. The stenciling is great. You can actually read the stencils on the propeller on the front there. They look absolutely fantastic. They didn't conform as well, but I think that was my fault for using too strong of decal solvent. I think I should have used Microset and Microsol. I think that would have been a lot better. But all in all, guys, if you're thinking about getting this kit, I really would recommend it, especially with the British version that'll be coming out soon in the very near future from Airfix. I believe it's called the Martlet. That one should be coming out fairly quick, I hope. And if you can, grab it, and you'll love this kit. It is so much fun. I just enjoyed this to the fullest. It's so great. Excellent engineering from Airfix all around. So thank you everybody for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this build series of the new Airfix Wildcat. It has been such a great little kit to complete. If you like this video, you can click that like button. You can also leave a comment if you like. Be sure to subscribe. There will be more videos coming out in the near future, and so that's a good way to stay informed of what's coming up. This is Cloud9. If I haven't taught you guys anything, at least you learned what not to do. I'll see you guys next time.